Welcome to Your Story, everybody. Today I have with me a very good friend of mine who's recently taken over as President and CEO of Bosch Engineering Services India. He is none other than Dattatri Salagame. How are you, Datta?
I am good, Vishal. Happy to talk to you. Very good to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Now, how does it feel? I mean, we were just talking and it's just another position, or your roles and responsibilities are now going to, be larger than life because you're in a company that's pushing the boundaries of connected technologies. How does it feel, Datta?
So, first of all, I feel excited. The reason why I get excited is because we are not joining the dots from the past. So, it's basically what RBEI, Bosch Engineering Services, will be in the next, let's say, 5 to 8 years. Will not be a joining of dots from the past. So we have to create the dots and then join. So that's pretty exciting for me. Being a Bangalore boy doesn't make a difference because we are a global company. So if somebody asks me which city very well, of course I know Bangalore very well. The next city is Stuttgart. So
Yes.
I know streets of Stuttgart as well as Bangalore streets.
Absolutely. And for those of you who have not been to Stuttgart, I'd say try it because the home of Porsche, is it? Porsche and Mercedes again.
Yeah, all the automobile chains are there.
Absolutely. And let's how are you handling the pandemic, Datta? I mean, I want to know you're a team of thousands of engineers, and all of them have expectations. All of them want to realize what's going to happen in the new world. In a matter of a couple of months, we've realized that the whole economy is changing. But what is real is we're going to do meetings like this. The world of industrial automation or Industry 4.0 is going to become real, right? Because social distancing is the norm and Bosch pushes Industry 4.0. So what are your thoughts? What is your message to your engineers before we go into the worldly things of connected and everything?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing for me, I took over on 1st of April and while we were in lockdown. So, we moved more than about 96% of our associates to work from home because we're an engineering company. So, there are a lot of lab involved. So, we had to shift the lab to houses to keep the business going. So, that worked fantastic. We never imagined that 23,000 people are able to work from home and yet deliver deep tech engineering work to our partners around the world. So that was very, very good. So at this stage, I would say to all my fellow colleagues that we have done a fantastic job of keeping engineering, product engineering going while our partners were struggling around the world. That's a really good job. But as we go, I think, as a generation, it's a very unprecedented opportunity. Everything around us is changing. So technology is changing, work is changing, and workforce is changing. Do you get a better time in the world chronology to be there, right? So it's very unprecedented. Take this as a great opportunity, not be bogged down by this multi-pronged forces acting at the same time. So while COVID or not, we will be walking into a new world. Only the pace will change, time will change. That's it. It's better to get excited about opportunities.
Okay. Talk about, okay, you took over on April 1st. Running up to the time that you were taking over, did you have to make presentations to the board on your vision? And because Bosch handles so many things, healthcare, connect everything in the connected world. You guys are in security, you're in healthcare, mostly automobile. Running up to the time you got selected, did you have to make presentations to the board on your vision for RBI? Today I sit in a car, I see at least so many technologies that have Bosch in it, the signature of Bosch. So what are your thought processes? When you think about making a presentation to the board and the future of this company?
Yeah, so we are preparing for the connected world. So is it already there? It's not there yet. Will it be there? It's going to be there. It's only the time that individual leaders believe in. Right? So the connected world, I mean, my biggest, let's say, that opportunity in front of me is about making RBEI one of the most valuable software companies for Bosch, right? Technology and software company for Bosch. Because what we see is that every product, the quantum of software in the product is going to go up. Software was at the back of the product, but now it's going to be at the front of the product. So this being the scenario that we foresee, being ready for this, for Bosch to win more in the connected world is my biggest priority. So it's about building the belief system that this is going to be true. And also it's about setting a pace for the transition, which is very important, because you run too fast, you don't have anybody with you. You have to set the right pace for transition and build the belief system. And of course, work on building the competencies which are necessary for this. So this is the biggest priority.
Okay. Over the last 3-4 years, you and I have been in many conferences, also met in a couple of conferences. Everybody talks about digital transformation. And I've been with Bosch to Stuttgart, of course, and to Bad Mergentheim also, where your testing tracks are. And I really see that you are pushing boundaries of the connected world. What areas or opportunities that you see Indian engineers can latch onto at this point of time? India was known to build, we moved from IT services to building a piece of the product. Do you see Indian engineers owning the product? Because you said you want to put RBI India on the map of the world to build one of the best software businesses. So what is your opinion on that?
So India is actually very well poised. It's not an accident, but I think, we by design, if you look at the Indian IT industry, we've been working for different clients around the world.
Yes.
And the good part is now when you look at the full stack development, which starts from hardware and all the way till intelligence, the cognitive outcomes, India has this talent in abundance, because having talent at scale is something which will change the industry.
Yes.
India has this talent at scale. So I think we're going to play a huge role in building products which are connected and bringing this full stack capabilities. So the long drawn aspiration of India to be able to do products end to end, I don't think this is too far.
It's heartening to hear that. Go on, you were saying, because...
Yeah, because the core capability of the product will be the connectivity, software, and the data and the AI. India has these capabilities at scale. So what we may have to also think is that India is on par with any other country when we look at the technology. So some of the Indian use cases which are hyper local in nature, which needs to be solved, probably we'll be solving a lot more of them as compared to the past. So if you look at 20 years back, the Indian IT industry was extremely West focused, whereas now in the second wave of digital, I think the Indian technology industries will solve a lot of problems which are relevant for India. As you would have seen in Bosch, for example, we looking at diagnostic solutions, eye care or hemoglobin monitoring. These are very, very India-specific solutions, but which has the potential to go beyond India.
You took over in a very difficult time. The lockdown was announced March 23rd.
Yeah.
And straight away you had to, probably get into the thick of things. Did you do anything in COVID at all? Did you do anything?
Pardon?
Did you do anything for COVID? Most of I'm happy that, one thing is I'm happy I didn't get any press release from Bosch saying that we did this during COVID. I'm getting thousands of them. But I have to ask you this question. How did you manage? April 1st to COVID, there's a COVID happening. You have to manage internally. Plus, the world expects Bosch to announce something, at least Robert Bosch Engineering India. Did you do anything for COVID?
See, look, as I said, we have 23,000 people, right? And to expect 23,000 people to work from home, and we are an engineering company, we're not a pure software company. So they will have hardware, target hardware on which they have to test. So to ensure that this works was a big deal. So suddenly we became a logistics company. For 2 weeks, we were a logistics company. We were sending the hardware to their houses. We were sending desktops to their houses, lab equipment to their houses. So we donned the avatar of logistics company for 2 weeks to ensure that everybody who is at home is able to work. So
yeah, not many people realize that you have to send hardware home because you're testing pieces of hardware that go into the car at the end of the day. And you have to test software and hardware integration. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's so there, it also helped us in some sense, because earlier there was this feeling that work from home is impossible because you have hardware. So now that myth is completely broken by COVID. So now people believe that you can do even hardware dependent work from home. So as I said, that was a phenomenal 1 week, 1.5 weeks, where we had to track every associate who was traveling and who came back to India, really track them on a daily basis. We had about 430 associates who were traveling into different parts of the world. So they had come back in that week. So we had to track each one of them and also ensure that people are working from their homes. And the good thing, the most challenging was to communicate because everybody was confused. How long it's going to be, what is the future, what will their customers do, what will be their reaction and whatnot. So we had to do, let's say, a lot of communicating with our associates to kind of soft land them into the new forms of working.
Nice. That's good. Seriously, what are your customers saying now? You must have spoken to some of them already. Yeah. Obviously, it is a fact that the auto industry will slow down this year. But I keep talking to some dealers. They're saying they're expecting some cars to come into their yards and all that. From an RBI perspective, obviously you're a global company. What do your customers tell you from a global perspective and an Indian perspective?
Yeah. So if you look at automotive industry, it's a double whammy effect.
Yes.
Automotive industry was going through a structural change for the last, let's say, 1.5 to 2 years. Not just in India, world around. Either because of clean mobility or it's fundamental changes in the behavior of consumers, mobility consumers. So it was going through a basic change, and the COVID didn't help it. So it's a double whammy effect. So yes, our partners, our customers in Germany and in other parts of the world who are facing the OE, they are impacted significantly. So the good thing is that nobody is postponing strategic engineering projects. So they're not calling off products of the future.
Yeah, so absolutely. Again, just to interject and probably add to the audience, a car life cycle is 3 to 4 years. So you guys would be in early development of some projects to be finished by 2024 maybe, right?
Yes. So these products of the future are being, these programs are continuing. And hence, the expectation from customers was that, hey, you in India are doing a fantastic job. You guys are able to work from home. I've never imagined that I can get that kind of productivity with so many associates working from home. So they really thank us that we are able to continue the work and deliver. Even the agile development worked with so many people sitting in different houses. So this expectation is going to continue. So where we were directly working with end customers in US and in Japan, and of course in some customers in India, we were significantly affected. So we
in what way, Datta? In what way can you tell us without actually revealing too much? Can you give us a hint?
What happened, for example, we were doing some Industry 4.0 work for a Japanese client, and they had to close the factory for nearly 2 months. And we had to call off the project, we had to pause the project, and our associates were there in Japan and they were just staying in their houses. So when they come back, let's say the pace at which these projects are regaining momentum is understandably slow because they have other priorities, they have to solve many other problems. before they come back to this. So they're doing that. So I wouldn't say these projects will be put off, but it will take some time to regain the momentum. And while we are helping all these clients, because it's a very difficult time for everyone, we had to be patient. We have to engage with them with a lot of patience, and also be a partner for them. We can't walk away because a project is delayed for, let's say, 4 to 5 months. So
Absolutely.
we are doing that. We are doing that. In fact, in some areas, we have very different kind of opportunities. But for some automotive clients in India and abroad, we are actually offering COVID solutions. Scanning, face recognition, camera-based, temperature recognition. So many of these solutions are on contact tracing. All these solutions are being offered. So
that's very nice. They came to you proactively, these Indian companies, for these solutions.
Well, yeah, see, we created this in a matter of about 3 to 4 weeks. That was the beauty of how people came together. So Bosch has high-end cameras. So we have a big center for artificial intelligence in India. So this collaborative team came together in a very agile fashion and created these solutions in a very quick manner. So we socialized this with all our clients, and many of them need it. So
has it been shipped? Have you shipped the software or the hardware?
So while as we speak, we already did a pilot in Bangalore airport. So BIL is already doing a pilot with us, and there is other couple of automotive clients, one in India and one in US, who want these solutions already.
No, that's so good to hear, and also good to know about BIL. Because I hope to travel soon and I cannot sit at home in 2 months, right? So that's
if the temperature is shown normal, think of Bosch.
Obviously, that's a good message. But I'm going to tweet about that too. How much of your current billing is affected? Don't give me an absolute. I mean, you don't give me specifics. But has your current billing been affected globally? Do you see vertical specific industries drop, or do you see a horizontal effect in terms of number of engineers to drop and be put in bed?
Look, so if I look at it differently, when you look at, let's say, we had made a target business plan for 2020. So that was based on a very normal world. Everybody in every industry did a planning based on a very normal world. So with this unprecedented event, so obviously that business plan is under stress. So now then, what is the next best thing to fall? The next thing to fall is end of 2019 numbers. So, but good thing is we will be much above 2019 numbers, and of course below 2020 business planning numbers. So, what does it mean for us? We have our own levers to manage this. So, we are not canceling even one offer letter to all the university freshers. We honor every offer letter that we made. We honor every offer that we made for laterals joining the company. So, and there's not a single person, job affected. So, absolutely, we're staying very agile and looking at how we can respond very quickly when there is growth returning, maybe in Q3. Because I'm sure some projects will revive, and because nobody's 100% sure what's going to happen. So we are pretty nimble-footed, and we're waiting for those recoveries to happen in Q3 or Q4 of this year. But as we speak, we don't have, let us say, significant impact to take, let's say, significant measures around associates.
Nice answer. And talking about the globe itself, which region will recover faster? Because there's no vaccination. Let's be honest, and you would know that too. Your teams would have discussed. Europe is going through its challenges. North America is going through its challenges. Asia, obviously. What is your prediction? I mean, is there a prediction at all? Do we have to predict, or you see industry? What do industry leaders that you talk to tell you? Where do we see some growth? I mean, because at the end of the day, if you guys don't do well, media people don't have a job because our primary source of revenue is advertising.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you see, many countries are already returning to fairly good normalcy. Right? If you look at Germany is open. They took a lot of measures. I think they handled it very well. So they're back. All our board members are working from offices. People are are allowed to work in certain percentage from office. Shops are open, streets are. There was never a lockdown like in India where parks and all were closed. So Germany is, I think, doing a great job in Europe. And countries which went into their peaks much early, they are all back. For example, Italy and all other countries in Europe, they're back already. US story, so they'll be back anyways.
Yes,
so quit or not, they'll be back. So they'll come back and face consequences. So that's a different world. India, to be honest, I think it is much more than what was expected out of India. Nobody expected India to be in this position.
Managed it well. We managed it well.
The numbers look rather very encouraging. So I think India's return is much faster than what we thought. I mean, just we are hoping that there's no big wave 2 or a big wave 3. But otherwise, I think India is more or less back on its feet as far as work is concerned. So China is back. Chinese economy, I mean, Chinese are already, we see some green shoots coming back in terms of demand in automotive world. So China is back. More production side as well as on the consumer side. So this is how it looks like. But can you predict? It's very hard to predict. Who is going to go and buy a car is very, very hard prediction in these days.
The other interesting thing is that people want to buy a car, they could probably buy online, number one. They could probably go to an experience center where there is social distancing.
Yeah.
Which in fact Bosch has talked about the connected dealership. I think Volkswagen in its factories, and I mean I think Wolfsburg. Yes, it is Wolfsburg. They have an entire collection center that's only customer driven and handled by robots and things. You might have heard of that. Right. So do you see that as a future? That's an opportunity for India, and maybe repurpose people to customer experience, customer service differently, remote kind of calling. Maybe that's the kind of move forward.
So it will happen. I already see some brands announcing contactless surveys. They're announcing. Some of the big brands have already said this, and even Bosch car service. If you heard about it. So Bosch car service is also announced contactless service possibilities for customers. So this is going to happen. Will all this happen immediately? I mean, it's going to take a while. Yeah. So the first step back is what is the response from a mobility user towards a mobility gadget? So will they still believe in shared? Because shared is
it's hit the shared economy, co-working.
Hit the shared economy. So when they're let's say a bit anxious about shared economy, now what's the next thing? You want to own something. Now when the economy is very tight, when people don't have too much of money on their hands, what will they buy? So
lease it, probably lease thing.
Lease could be an option, or a second-hand vehicle sale may boom. Two-wheeler sales may increase. So these are the possibilities.
Okay, so you're repurposing based on these kind of predictions, honestly. I mean, India anyway does what, 20 million two-wheelers. Do you see that increasing? Do you see auto sales? I mean, I think this year will be a lull though, but we're talking about 2022 onwards, all these changes can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there'll be very different. But on the other hand, if you see the retail which has to deliver to your house, there will be other drivers which will also push the need for mobility, not necessarily the end mobility user. So the logistics, if you see the e-commerce logistics would significantly increase. So some of this will push also the need for mobility consumption. But we have to wait and see, how things will, because India is a very different country, because we have short memories and we have million gods. We believe in million. So after, let's say, 3 months, the news channels will push the COVID to the background.
Absolutely.
And then, people will be traveling in metro, BMTC, auto rickshaws, Ola, Uber, with some precaution. Yeah. So I think India's response will be very interesting to watch.
That's a great answer. And in terms of India itself, do you see any bouncing back of any particular industries based on your portfolio also? Because health is big for you, like you mentioned. Will that recover faster? Will healthcare services become bigger for you? Healthcare products become bigger, or do you see automobile being sustained? Or do you mentioned e-commerce, warehouses, because you have solutions there. You have packaging solutions also, which you build, right? And the software for that. You want to talk about which one will recover faster? Based on consumption. Let's keep in mind that consumption is going to come back, if it comes back.
See, the company that I run, this is not, there's a very low, not too much of a significant footprint for India, direct market.
Correct.
Right? So we build
Understand it, yes.
which are relevant for Indian market as well as for other parts of the world. So the two topics on which I see higher traction would be, of course, telemedicine and more of healthcare possibilities, which we have devices already, and also on digitizing the enterprises. So the digital transformation of the enterprises, which we spoke for last 3 years,
Several years,
seminars and webinars and
hours and hours, yes.
This is going to be real. This is going to be real, and those who have it and those who don't have it. So there will be a thrust on that. So these are the two sectors on which I think I see.
Okay. While you are a global company in nature, like you said, digital transformation should go into the SMEs also. Who will push digital transformation to SMEs? Will our OEs do it? Or will now Robert Bosch say, look, we have these plug-and-play solutions, which are also SaaS in nature. Will they come into the website, buy products? Will that happen? Or will you use your channel partners to deliver your services? How's it going to be? How do you see that work?
So that's a good question, because the OEs will not, in the history of software OEs, SMEs have never been the priority in the past. So, but if you look at, that's where I always say you need hyperlocal architectures in software.
Yes.
Because the cost of ownership is so different. The cultural orientation in each segment is very different. The industries in Pina versus, let us say, the Mittelstand of Germany, the orientation is very, very different. So I think the digital transformation for SMEs will be built around SaaS. That's a very pragmatic approach. So smart connectivity devices, which actually gets data at a very low cost of data acquisition, and SaaS solutions, which brings down the cost of ownership of IT, is the way to go. And I believe that B2B ecosystems will be there will be many B2B ecosystems which serve SMEs.
That's a great opportunity. You were saying.
It's an opportunity, and I think it is highly unaddressed.
And I like the fact that you have obviously Debashish is listening to us speak, and he runs the startup side of things. You also have your entrepreneur program. I know a couple of them, and you have to tell me. You remember 3 years ago when we met in Delhi, you said, yes, ideas are great, but they have to make money. Otherwise it's just playing around. Not playing around. It's an engineering problem. It's an engineering marvel, but it has to make money. So I'm segueing into startups. We spoke about SaaS as addressing MSMEs. Let's talk about startups. What areas should they focus on? I think the era of people coming and saying, I'm an AI startup will go, because then AI is just an underlying layer on which you build a solution, right?
Yeah.
So you want to talk about these kind of things, and please include blockchain also, because a lot of people will ask me about blockchain. People will ask me even about edge computing. Let's talk AI, blockchain, edge, SaaS, and the opportunity for startups in India and global, and your entrepreneur program and your external program also.
See, I think the startups would be under stress in the current circumstances. So our DNA program has always been a non-intrusive model of engaging startups. So we don't have, let's say, pre-binding mechanism for any startup that comes on board DNA. Because we looked at how can we create value creation in deep tech space rather than have a very clear upfront financial locking with the startups, because that is our belief is that that's going to kind of put the innovation itself in the background. So I think startups are always designed to solve a niche problem, and at a certain degree of customer acquisition. I'm not talking of B2C, let's say commerce places or B2C service marketplace. I'm talking of engineering startup ecosystem. So since they solve the niche problem, they would need a partner with whom they scale up. So this interdependency will only increase. I think it's good for industry, both ways, startup as well as the industries, because industries lack the speed and the agility and on-the-go thinking, while the startups have that. On the other hand, they need some kind of a force multiplier for them to go beyond what they're doing. So this will increase the interdependency. But maybe they have to look at, which are the fertile areas which will be in focus very quickly. So some of the things will be a lot more in focus in comparison to others. For example, telemedicine, pharma, healthcare, even agri startups will be doing a lot more work, and connecting the factories, automation in the factories, robotics, energy space, retail, managing retail with a lot of safety features. So some of these spaces will be good to work on, and this will have resonance to the rest of the world as well.
So you're saying startups will be partners, which is nice, which is good, and you will help them scale their solutions, obviously, and also it'll be great because they'll also innovate with your teams. And RBI is known to file so many patents. You already have such good teams, right? Do you see a mix and match of the both? You see your teams going and mentoring them specifically, and then saying, okay, how do we figure to take this to market together? Have those examples happened in the past?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We have been, as we speak, we have invested with NASSCOM. So one of our guys is going to be sitting in NASSCOM for next 2 years, working on IoT and Industry 4.0 topics. We have created something called IoT Garage in Bosch, which is open for any startup to come and take advantage of. So we are doing that all the time, and we are also joining the dots from India to our partners in the rest of the world. So if you remember the cooking robo, we connected this startup to Bosch Siemens home appliances. And where do you get this connectivity? You try something as a cooking robo in India, and next thing you get connected to Bosch home appliances, which is a 13 billion plus company. Those possibilities clearly exist.
Okay, under your leadership, what advice would you give to startups coming to Bosch going forward? What is the thesis for you? You mentioned 7 or 8 verticals that you want to focus on. Again, going back to the question, do you want them to come to you with an idea, with a small POC, or they should have already achieved some kind of commercial traction? Because I see the same bunch of people moving from Cisco to Bosch, and from Bosch to some Oracle, and from Oracle to somewhere else. I want to see some fresh young blood. What are your thoughts?
So, if the startup is more kicked by the idea and the change they want to do in the world than the money that they want to get from the VCs, they should come to Bosch. So that's the spirit with which we engage startups.
Yeah. Because they'll eventually make money because you have a global customer base.
Absolutely, money has to be a byproduct. Money itself cannot become a motivation. Of course, that's a very strong driver. But if we believe that technology can solve some real life problems, we should be kicked about the idea, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, so fall in love with the solution rather than fall in love with everything else that's around, the glamour that surrounds a startup.
Yeah,
right?
Bosch is a name that cannot be used for getting a better valuation.
Absolutely, but I think getting into Bosch would absolutely be amazing because of the kind of products that you build. I have lots of topics to cover, and we have about another 15 minutes. What about your entrepreneur program? Very important to you. I've met a lot of bright people there. Hemant and Pawan, obviously, you already know. That's one startup that always got the news also. It's called IRO, I think. It is
Yes.
IRO, right?
Yes.
What advice would you give to your entrepreneur program startups? I mean, there must be many, and globally also you have several, right?
Yeah. Yeah. As you know, Bosch launched a program called Grow. It's a separate company of incubation of startups. It's called Grow Game Data. And this will have sectors, grow centers in different parts of the world as we move forward. So if you look at what's happening in the creativity space within RBI, there are lots. I mean, it's very exciting to see so many youngsters coming out with so many. So we are providing a framework for them to think like a startup. So because I believe that in a corporate world, you cannot copy paste a startup environment. Now you can borrow good practices from a startup, but you cannot just simply have a copy paste expectations from an outside startup. And that's the two are very different worlds. So what we encourage them is to think like a startup. You know, can they pivot quickly when they realize that the solutions that they're trying to do are very complex, not feasible, or they're ahead of the market, or they're really behind the market curve. So that pivot has to be really self-driven, because we don't want to have a model where some wise men come to them and say, "Hey, now you're not going to make money. Stop it." So that's not a very healthy sign. So we need to build this culture of self-motivated pivots, a pivot to stop or pivot to grow or pivot to steady state. This is a cultural shift that we are trying to bring, and to make them think like a CEO of a startup. That's not an easy thing, in a corporate world. But that's what we are trying to promote. If you look at the Eero is run like a small venture.
Yes.
Phantom is run like a small venture. We have a connectivity device for automotive industry that's run like a small venture. Healthcare is run like a small venture. Agriculture is run like a small venture. So they have certain constraints of resources, just like any other startup outside, though they sit in a big building called Bosch. So they fight constraints and like the startup. So they fight the market like startup. But the good thing is they know they work for Bosch, so they don't have to worry at the end of every month how they pay the power bill or a water bill for the premises.
Yeah.
So that's a good.
And the fact that they can have a common marketing team, they don't have to go employ people, right?
Yeah.
They don't have.
Yeah, I mean, we encourage them to really, do the, let's say, firefighting of their startup all by themselves. So if they want to build a marketing team for themselves, so be it, as long as they're able to manage the cost. They'll get a lot of resources from RBI, but they have to fight it out like any other startup.
Okay. A little bit about leadership. Vijay set the tone for our Bosch. I mean, I heard he's also on a board of Bosch Global now or something like that. You're taking on from an interesting man, and your role will be so, be so challenging in the next 10 years because digital transformation is here to stay. A little bit of, a few good words for Vijay maybe. And then I want to know that, all the senior people in Bosch should expect you to achieve something and obviously lead a global team. I want you to take me through that entire presentation that you made to the board. I want to come back to that because how did you get selected? Because I am kicked about a local lad making it because, I cannot stop, pleasing myself over it because I'm happy. So how did that happen? You could probably start with Vijay and how did that transform into you? Because they were looking for an MD for a very long time, if I'm not mistaken. I think 6-7 months they were looking for a CEO president also, right?
So Vijay was our first Indian president.
Yes, absolutely. That's correct.
Also, he joined us from the industry. He joined us from Infi. So he was kind of a man from outside when he joined RBI. So we inducted him. It took some time to induct him to Bosch ways of running it. So I think he was a great guy. So he brought in a very different kind of leadership into RBI. So there's huge freedom, a lot of elbow room for individuals to think and act. So he provided a lot of opportunities for people to, let's say, internalize the larger picture of Bosch and then act independently, which was a very, very unique style of leadership. It was so that helped a lot. So he was a great brand for us in Germany. So he socialized the capabilities of RBI very well in Germany. Also in the industry, he was a big name in NASCOM and in many other industry bodies in India. So he brought in a very different kind of outlook to RBI. And his focus was a lot on technology, innovation, and change. So he believed in a change, and he drove that very passionately. So that was a big shoe to fill for me. As a someone taking over from Vijay. So that's, but also it gives me a direction, a kind of a signpost of leadership to look at when you are making your own progress. So, but the leadership is always in the context. All of us, leadership is not in absolute sense, because it always leadership has a context. So the contexts are changing. So Vijay had a context of RBI and Bosch, good and bad. So I have a context for the next few years of the world, Bosch and RBI. So we, do I just, let's say, follow what Vijay did? I will take his best practices, but I have to create what is relevant for next 5 to 6 years. I believe, as I said in the beginning, we'll not be able to join the dots from the past in a very organic fashion. We have to disrupt. So that's part of Vijay to me transition. But I think Bosch has a very let's say systematic way of looking at people for leadership roles. Of course, I've made several trips to Germany to present myself to different board members, and Vijay's stint as CEO in India built a belief that India can run this center. So that helped us a lot.
There was a time, I'm happy because there was a time in 2014, 15, or even 16, we used to talk about software taking over the world. And people would, in traditional industry, would say maybe not. And perhaps in your time, it is going to be the new normal. Software will take over the world, and we have to prepare for that. And is this good news? Correct me if I'm wrong. I was seeing data which said that from the automobile industry itself, IT services or software could be a $1 trillion business opportunity by 2030, because we'll see electric mobility, connected mobility in many ways, right? Your car, finally the single truth, home to car, car to work, work to anywhere, right? And because you're always connected. In a way, that world is already here.
Mm-hmm. So while I don't, the way I look at this segmentation would be different. So when you say mobility as a segment in the future, so it will be, value will be generated the cross section of many today's segments. So if you sit in, let's say, Ola or Uber, and then you do your, let's say, Udemy courses, then it's education and mobility cross section which is delivering value. So I think going forward, so the segmentation of industry itself will change. So mobility will deliver a lot more consequences and outcome to mobility users as it does today. You may have a health check, telemedicine happening in a car, a lot of things which may change completely. So, and from that point of view, the IT service space and digital opportunities will be humongous. It will increase for sure. While I don't want to peg a number at it, but the way you look at the segment will change.
Interesting. A quick thought on electric mobility. I know you have a big electric vehicle practice. There's an electric motor business that you have also. There's a electric vehicle stack that you guys provide as a service. Do you see that as a big thing going forward right after the pandemic?
So the focus on electric was independent of, so the way Bosch looked at electric was, what are the alternate options for mobility? So electric is not the only option. So Bosch is thinking of the artificial fuels. So there are many other fuel cells. So there are more options for climate-friendly mobility that Bosch is thinking about. Electric is one such. So because the transition will be multifold, multidimensional is what we think. So it may not be that it may be just one dimension from diesel to electric. So Bosch is preparing products which are relevant for all these moves. So the portfolio is already being in many OE cars. So as the electric vehicle percentage increases, you will see more Bosch products in it.
Okay, and safety will be a big thing. Safety, and because it's connected security, these
Yes,
two things will become.
Absolutely. So I mean, what was an optional feature in a car many years back is a standard feature now. A few airbags, ABS is a standard feature. So safety will become a new norm. Whether it's two-wheeler or four-wheeler or any form of vehicle. So we'll see a lot more safety features coming into the car. And even if you look at autonomous driving, safety has gone to the next level. So I think that will reach new frontiers.
So autonomous, will it come to India at all? In a way, autonomy in a sense, we're not talking about complete autonomy. Autonomy in Indian highways could happen. Autonomy in terms of understanding your ecosystem around you can happen, right? I mean, say retailers saying you're driving towards Tirupati and can say there's a retailer just down the road who offers you some food or something, right? Yeah. Or some kind of pick up coffee with a Starbucks maybe. Something, I mean, something of that sort. Is that a possibility for India?
So a lot of our friends from Hero are already doing it. So that's what. So they are providing local recommendations, in-car local recommendations. So vehicle to what is something which will play out. Vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to vehicle. So that's something which will play out. So let's say if you need a suggestion where to park while you are driving, that's a very, very important information, very relevant information for India. Rather than, can we make it is completely autonomous on our highways? Maybe we are not ready for that. So I think we will see a lot of intelligence coming into car based on the location, based on the context. So that's a stage one which is going to happen. I think many of the OEs are already finding ways to do it. You have seen, OEs announcing internet car already.
Yes, absolutely. Perhaps there's a case for me to come back maybe in 20 days time and talk to you just about what is a car in 2025 going to look like. You spoke artificial fuels, you spoke about stage one connectivity in India. Perhaps that's a good segue to meet you again, and it's a good reason to meet you or see you again for me.
Sure. Once we have got a handle on our business plan this year.
Absolutely. Let me know when that is. And my last couple of questions would be around women entrepreneurs, and patents. Yeah. You guys, I remember in 2015 you had less than 100. Then in 2016 you guys said you had 170 patents or something like that. I might be wrong with the numbers, but definitely over 150 for sure. Patent filing will be important. And what's the role of women engineers, women entrepreneurs? That's something I don't want to miss because I see a lot of them making impact in every walk of life now. Your thoughts?
So, I mean, we are an equal opportunity player. So if you see a lot of very, very critical roles are held by women leaders. For example, India safety division is led by a lady. Padmaja leads the whole of safety program out of India. So there are a lot of women leaders who are playing very, very significant role, not just for India, for a global, with a global footprint. So I would not, let's say, draw two paths, one for women, one for, I would resist doing that. I would rather say, hey, there's a path which is common, but how can we build a lot more support systems, make equality a norm in the company so that there are no, let's say, headwinds for anyone in particular when there is a disadvantage due to certain personal scenarios. So that's how I look at it. So I would see more women taking a lot more leadership roles in India, also in Bosch in Germany. So this is a standard question that we get very often. When will Bosch board have a lady.
On the board also, right? That's the question that they ask, right? Most of the time.
This I ask very often. I'm sure we don't have to wait as long as we waited in the past.
Okay, that's a good enough answer. Your final message to engineers in India. I'm glad you said you're going to make good the offer letters already made. So, your thoughts for them if they ever have to work for Bosch, what do they have to be good at? And you laid out a lot of pointers. What basic, what do you leave them? What kind of learning would you leave them with?
So many of them joined with a good background in engineering, so that they would have studied engineering. So we don't even really question their capabilities in their understanding of engineering. So from an academic standpoint, so when they come to Bosch, the application is what they get transitioned into. So they are given good trainings to apply their knowledge into systems that are going into applications. So, for example, somebody who has studied electronics will know how to create ECUs which will control fuel injection in a car. That's a massive opportunity. To think building a controller which actually can control fuel injection into a sophisticated car is a massive opportunity. So they have to visualize this. It's not about if they're programming, they should think that they're programming for a system which goes into Porsche, which is running on the Autobahn of Germany. So this is the view that they need to get, right? It's not a piece of code that they write. It is a piece of code that runs Porsche, or it's a piece of code that runs a Mercedes-Benz. So that is something, that is a view that they have to get it as an opportunity. Of course, you start by programming and then you get into systems. So, I think this when we start seeing this picture and when we get excited with this possibility, I think we're going to have very talented engineers out of India.
Great to know, and also they'll become entrepreneurs also in the future. And you didn't tell me about blockchain. That's something, blockchain and AI and cybersecurity. Are they going to be important for you?
Absolutely.
And edge computing also.
See this. These are technologies which are fundamental in the connected world. So these are big enablers in the connected world. So I don't even say, let's say, whether they are needed or not. It's only about what kind of powerful use cases you discover. So they will be there. I was looking into one of the conversations my CEO was talking. He said, we shall not create any product which is not connected, which is not cognitive. Now, if you create a product which is always connected, which is cognitive, you cover the whole stack that you mentioned. So you need security, you need secure handshakes, you need AI. So this is going to be a fundamental enabler for when you build products which are connected and cognitive. So it's not about whether they are needed or not.
They're table stakes. They're here to stay. So great. And what have you been doing in the pandemic? That's I have to ask you. Are you reading? Are you preparing presentations, business plans?
Yes.
Is that what you're doing? What's a typical day like?
Work from home. It's been a lot of work from home. So because since you are at home, the calls don't end. You start 8 o'clock in the morning and your calls go all the way till 9:30 in the evening. And then there are several open points. So you actually end up doing a lot more work at home than in office, which I think is the same reaction expressed by many other colleagues as well. Maybe it's true with you as well.
Yeah, it is true.
Otherwise, the locality that I live, I don't think they're asking us not to venture out for a walk or something. So I still do that. I do a lot of cult. I am a member of cult, so it's always fun to do exercise with me on very good opportunity, right? So the cult is a way to keep healthy. I try my hand at cooking sometimes, but I don't post these pictures too often. So I think it's a good, very, very humbling experience, right? It's a very humbling experience. It doesn't matter, whether who you are. Let's say the president of UK was in hospital, and a migrant labor is also trying to see how he can be secure against COVID. It's a very, very humbling experience for humanity. So when you spend your time with family and then continue work as part of a global ecosystem, and when you see what's happening around the world, it's a very, very reflective time.
Datta, and another thing, when you go through leadership, when you cross the chasm from being a senior C-suite leader to becoming president CEO, is that different? Obviously, the person remains the same, but the expectations are maybe different. So the step up, right? I mean, do you take mentors yourself? Do you have mentors that you look at? Does Bosch have a mentorship program for you? Because you handle so many people, customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. We do have mentorship programs, well-structured mentorship programs, and CEO coach, and many other possibilities. But I think the processes and methods are so strong in Bosch. It gives you a very good framework to lead.
Yes.
So it's not a individual style-based leadership.
Yeah.
Where you have opportunities to bring your methods of leadership, but the frameworks are very robust, so you don't miss many.
No, it's a good answer, Datta. You stay safe, and obviously, I'll take up. Obviously, I'm going to call you back when your business plans are ready. As and when I want to talk about the future of cars, future of agriculture, future of healthcare. I have a lot of meetings to do. I miss coming to Bosch to see all those beautiful connected stuff that you build. At least it's like a lab. It's like a mad scientist lab. I miss that. I really miss that. But I'm glad that you're here and to lead the team of RBI. Thank you very much for being on YourStory, and look forward to doing this again.
My pleasure, Vishal. Look forward to host you in Bosch
Yes.
anytime. So please let us know.